Hello and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. I cannot believe it has been nearly a year since I've talked about my Lacinosa collection. They are some of my favorite Hoyas. I think they are the easiest Hoya to take care of out of anything just as a whole. They are the, easiest variety of Hoya because they just grow nonstop. They don't always put out runners, and they also bloom the most frequently for me. So I just love collecting them, even though there are so many that look so similar. It doesn't really matter too much to me. I just love them overall. And I have quite a few that I've accumulated, more than my last video, which I went back and looked. I put it out 11 months ago. So it's been quite a while. I can't believe I let it get that long, but we're getting to it now, and that's what matters. So I want to show off the entire Lacinosa collection today, point out ones that I know are newer that I've gotten more recently, and just highlight the growth that has happened in the past year or several years with some of these Lacinosa. I do have one I'll save for the end that is in a hanging basket that I cannot take down very easily, so I will save that for the end and just put it in this video. But other than that, they're all easily accessible for the video. It's just the one because it's just gotten a little bit bigger and it's in a hanging basket now, which is awesome. I'm gonna let Nutmeg go back to his afternoon nap with his sister, Luna. They were napping together and he looks still pretty sleepy. So I'll let him go nap and we'll talk about some Hoya Lacunosa. I figured I'd start this off with one of my best growing Lacinosa in my whole collection. This is my Hoya Lacunosa Mint Coin. I bought this at the Texas Aroid Show in October 2023. So it's been about a year and a half that I've owned this one, and it was not on a trellis when I first bought it. It was on a little plant stake. And in that year and a half, it has just exploded with growth. I am surprised that there has been no signs of a peduncle since I got this plant, but I'm honestly not too mad about it because I do appreciate all of the new growth, all of the foliage. There are some sections where the leaves just look a little weird and not at all like a mint coin should look, like the leaves here. But overall, they've stayed more to the coloring and rounded shape that I think they should. The leaves aren't quite as small as a Croniana. They kind of vary in their size in that way, but I'm not mad about it. I really do enjoy this plant. This is one of my favorites to look at because it's always just doing so well. I have never repotted it and I feel like I should. Maybe not. The roots are not coming out of the bottom, so I don't know. It's crazy. It's had this much growth, but it doesn't have roots coming out of the bottom of it yet, so maybe we'll just leave it in here for a while longer. Maybe you'll see it in this exact same pot when I do the next Lacinosa update. But this is such a pretty Hoya overall, and I love a round trellis. I say this a lot, but the look of a Hoya taking over a round trellis just makes me so happy. There's about 5 vines on this plant right now, and I think eventually I'll have to get the XL round trellis that Propagation Diaries offers, but for now I'm just gonna enjoy it on here and not think about the fact that this is going to be a pain to retrellis in the future, but that's okay. It'll be worth it because it's super cute. Speaking of always blooming, I have an active peduncle here. This is my Hoya Lacunosa Asami reverted, so it's just a green Asami at this point. And it does have an active peduncle right there. Strange location on the peduncle, but I can't really control that, and hopefully the blooms will still come out looking okay. I've never had this one bloom for me before. I did purchase it as a cutting. It's grown a little bit, not a ton, but I think I took a cutting at one point. I must have. But it's grown. This whole vine here is new. That did not exist. Some of the woodier stems are the older ones on this one, and it has lived in fluval ever since I got it. It probably could use a repot. Yeah, this is more the territory of something that could use a repot, and I think I got it as either a $5 add-on or a freebie from a Sam's Hoyas Purge, and I'm not mad that I did. It's super cute, it's super easygoing. This is a very typical green Lacinosa. There's nothing really special about it, but I don't mind that. I don't have a lot of plain green ones in my collection, so I'm just gonna enjoy having it, and I will definitely update you guys when it blooms. Hopefully it'll bloom soon, and I'm just looking forward to see if there's any variation, because so far all of my Lacinosas that have bloomed have looked the same, but I have seen people get some to bloom that are a slightly different color or just look a little bit different. So each time one blooms, I think it's still just as exciting of an experience, even though they do all smell the same and they look pretty similar. And of course, another one from Sam's Hoyas. This is my Hoya Lacunosa Moonlight. I have actually chopped it a few times because it did grow a runner here. I will probably chop it again just because there's one leaf down here, and I'm sure this one could use a repot. Oh, yeah, there's some roots starting to come out of the bottom. Not as bad as the reverted Asami, but still could probably benefit from a different potting situation, maybe not being in fluval anymore. But this is pretty similar to some of my other silvery Lacinosa. I just thought it was really pretty. It's a very inexpensive silver Lacinosa. If you are looking to add a silver one to your collection, I would start with something like this. Even if you can find the mint coin, sometimes you can find them for cheaper, but this one was really cheap. I'm gonna say $15, $20 for a pretty full cutting. Now that was over a year ago. It could be even cheaper now, but this one I do love. I do love that it's not just a plain silver leaf. I do have ones that are plain silver, but I do love that it has a little bit of the splash, a little texture, a little something to it. I would like it to look more aesthetically pleasing at some point, but it's still got really cute leaves, and I did propagate a bunch of cuttings from it recently, so hopefully they will be able to be added to the pot or whatever I kind of feel like doing to make this look prettier, but it's doing a pretty good job. One thing Lacinosas like to do is they like to branch out a lot into different vines without much work. So you can start out with one vine and really get a bushy plant just from that one vine pretty easily. Whereas some other Hoya with bigger leaves, I find I have to cut and put a cutting back in the pot to make it more full. So Lacinosa, that is another perk of them. They will make themselves bushy without much prompting whatsoever. And speaking of full silver leaves, this is my Hoya Lacunosa Louisa Silver. Unfortunately, not in the best shape. I've had to rehab this plant for quite a while now, and it still doesn't seem super happy. It's done nothing but lose leaves since I put it back in this pot, and I did have another section of it here that actually died off. So I'm not sure what the issue is with this one. I do have other cuttings in separate containers, so I do have a backup plan if this one doesn't work out, but I'm a little sad because I would like it to work out. I do love the Louisa Silver. It is one of my favorites. I love the pointy, just straight silver leaves, and then on the backs, the texture of the splash on the back is so beautiful to me. I don't see that on any of my other Lacinosa. So yeah, not too much positive to report about this one. Just hoping that it starts to love life again, because it used to grow so fast for me, and now it's just really sad. So we're still a work in progress with this one, but I had to include it because I love it, and I'm showing off the whole collection, so you can't leave any of them out. I do need to repot these together because I did take a lot of cuttings from my mother plant, and they're all over the place right now. Some of them are out like this, and then some are still in prop boxes. But this is my Lacinosa Royal Flush. It looks so much better on this one, so I'll probably put this down in a minute, but this was the mother plant. You can see all of the cuts that I took just because it wasn't doing the best, but the cuttings that I took are doing really well. This one has 2 growth points as Nutmeg is playing with my mail. Nutmeg, you having fun, buddy? Okay, maybe if you're not as noisy, that'd be good. So as I was saying, this is growing fairly well. It has already pushed out a second growth point without any prompting. Like I said, Lacinosa just love to make themselves the bushiest little Hoyas ever, and I have no complaints about that. The splash is really nice on this. It's not the splashiest in the whole world in every section, but it's still enough that it looks really cute. It might be very hard just show this one off on the camera because the internodal spacing is a little far apart on it. There, you can see. So it's got a decent amount of splash, nice texture to the leaves. I do think the sort of darker look of the leaves is due to high light. I was growing this in the propagation shelf, and so it was very close to the grow lights, and that's gonna lead to some sun stress, some darker leaves, and things like that. It'll probably, once I put it in a lower lighting setting, it will be more of a green, of a typical green. That's what I usually get out of my royal flush. Sometimes the new growth will look dark, but it'll harden off to that green eventually. So that's one of my goals for the next couple of months, is to get the royal flush all potted together in one beautiful pot again, because it is it's another fast growing Lacinosa. They really aren't slow Hoya overall, so I don't have too many tiny ones to show you because they just grow and they grow and they grow. And it's great. It's really a feel-good Hoya if you are down about maybe some of your plants are dying or they're not doing the best. A Lacinosa is a really good pick-me-up plant to make you feel confident about growing houseplants again, especially Hoya. So I highly recommend them. Obviously, I'm doing a whole video about all my Lacinosa. I highly recommend them. They're great plants. But this one in particular just grows so fast. It does look really similar to the one that I'm gonna show last. They are almost identical, but they are slightly different. So it happens with Lacinosa. There are so many that just look the same or have slight variations, but I think they're still fun. This is another one that could probably use a repot, but it's fine. This is my Hoya Croniana Super Silver. Croniana is just a Lacinosa. It's called Croniana because of the leaf shape, the small leaves that are rounded with the pointed bit on the top there. So it is a Lacinosa. I figured I would include it in this video just because it technically is. The blooms are the same. It's a pretty common Hoya now, but back when I first started collecting, this had a pretty high price tag and it was very popular. So now I see giant ones in plant shops all the time that are constantly blooming because it was so popular and people were really crazy about this Hoya in particular. I mean, it's adorable. Look at the leaves. It's so stinking cute, but it is so cheap now. I got this for $8 at Tillery Street Plant Company. It would probably be growing faster for me if I repotted it. I don't even know if it's grown much at all, because I just kind of bought it and then I forgot about it for a while. So this is another one I need to repot. It would probably grow faster. I have owned this plant before, but it did die when I moved to Texas. So it's nice to have another one in my collection. I think I bought it a few months ago. I could do some TLC on this and it would be in much better shape like the rest of my Lacinosa, but other things took precedent. But I will make an effort to get this one in a better situation soon. I think it's just in some crappy soil right now, so I would like to get it in a mix that's better suited for my plant care. I don't have a ton of plants in soil, especially small ones, so I'd like to do that, and Hoya seem to do really well in tree fern or moss for me, so I'll probably move that over once I repot it. But it is so stinking cute and I'm really happy that I have it in my collection again. Before I move on to all of the Lacinosa that are currently in the Hoya cabinet, because that's where most of them are, I do have two that are technically in plant rehab right now. One of them worse shape than the other, but they are recovering, so I'm very happy for them. The first is going to be my Lacinosa Peragin durian, and there's so much algae in this pot, it's not even funny. I would like to get it something better suited for it, and it does have a couple active peduncles on it as well. They might be hard to see because the leaves are just so stinking tiny. There's one down here and one up here. So it's just never been a happy plant ever since I owned it. And I think because it was so small, it needs a little bit more of everything. More fertilizer, more attention, more humidity, things like that. And Lacinosa leaves are typically pretty small in general, but these are so much smaller. And it just wasn't happy. It would dry out so fast. I don't do well with plants in pond anyway, so that could be another part of the issue, but I've been very scared to repot it just because I'm scared that it'll go into shock and die. The leaves did sun stress quite a bit because I have it under highlights in one of my Target greenhouses now, and it has been growing a bit and it's working on a couple of peduncles. So maybe that's something. I'm gonna take that as a positive sign that it's doing better, but this has been the most difficult out of any Lacinosa I've owned. This one has been the only one truly that is really difficult to take care of, and I just don't think I have found the magic potion quite yet. I think repotting it could help, getting it out of this gross pond and like something that's not a clear pot, that could help quite a bit. The humidity has been the best help, and the consistent lighting in the propagation shelf that I have in the corner of my room. So that has helped it a lot. I just think it needs a little bit more to get to this place where I could have a nice, big, beautiful, full Peragin durian. But right now I don't have that, but I haven't given up on this plant, and I feel like I've given up on similar plants for less, like similar plant situations. So I think it's turning a corner. It's been a long journey because I've owned this plant for almost 2 years, I want to say now. So we're working on it, but this just goes to show that not every plant is going to be a winner for your plant care style or for just whatever reason. They're not all going to be winners, but hopefully I can get this plant in a better place where it's growing more consistently. The other one in plant rehab is my Hoya Lacunosa Asami Clone 1. And I really don't think it's rehab too much. It just hasn't been able to graduate out of my prop boxes yet. I did put it in my largest prop box. This is actually just a leaf. There's no node to it anymore, but the leaf rooted, so I left it in there. It is growing. It has started to grow from the other section. I think I had 2 or 3 sections of plant in here, and the only one with a node that survived is this. So it just had a little bit of a harder time than the other Lacinosa that I got in this order. I think I ordered 5 or 6 Lacinosa at once, and this was the only one that really struggled, but it's doing much better now. There's nice roots on the sides and the bottom. So I do think it's close to graduating from Hoya rehab and going into this cabinet with the rest of the Hoyas. It's just been a little bit slower, and I think that's totally okay. It hasn't been really declining too much other than right at the beginning when it just didn't like whatever was happening. It didn't happen with any of the other Lacinosa. They're so much bigger. You'll see the rest of them from that order shortly, but it's doing okay. So I'm gonna count that as a win. It is growing, it seems happy now, and it seems to be loving life a little bit more. So yeah, it just shows that even if these are all one type of Hoya, there are some differences. The Peragin durian and this one just weren't the same as the rest. I think every single other one I own grows at a much faster rate and has done a lot better, but there's still gonna be a little bit of variation even within one type of Hoya. So it's a nice little lesson to learn. I wish it was growing faster because I love the outer variegation, but it's teaching a lesson in patience too. Moving on to the Hoyas in my Hoya cabinet, I'm gonna start with the 2 newbies that I got from Sam's Hoyas. The first is my Hoya Lacunosa Red Leaves Variegated. It has 2 new leaves on the back and a new vine that is growing. The variegation is still kind of burning in as the leaves harden off, which is pretty cool, but they do have a really good amount of variegation on them, so it seems to be a stable plant. It is still pretty small because this is the newest batch of plants in my collection. This one and the Monera, and then there's a Tangamus bamboo. They're my most new plants, so they're gonna be the smallest, but I think this one has been off to a good start. It's been actively growing, so I don't think it'll stay super small for long. I don't really have too much to say about it just because I don't have a ton of experience with it, having only had it in my collection for about a month now. So it just looks really pretty, and we're just gonna celebrate that. The other newbie in my collection is the Hoya Lacunosa Monera, and this one I did purchase as a much bigger plant with multiple vines and active growth points, so it's just gonna look much bigger to begin with. I am excited to get this on a trellis soon. I think it's about ready. I do love the pink stems and the new leaves coming out pink as well. I think it just adds a touch of color to the Hoya cabinet when a lot of the Hoyas in there are either silver or they have black veins or they're just green. So adding a little touch of color in the subtle pink tones has been a really nice change to the Hoya cabinet. There's definitely lots of different levels of variegation to this one. It is not the most highly variegated plant in some sections, but others like this main one here have insanely good variegation. So I think no matter what happens, this plant's gonna be fine. If a section reverts, it's gonna get chopped up. So it's just a fun one. I think I'm gonna enjoy watching this particular plant grow, especially once I get it on a trellis. You'll see pretty shortly the plants on the trellises are doing so well. Also the mint coin that I showed off first, that plant is amazing. These little Lacunosa, while they are great for a hanging basket, I think a circular trellis is the way to go, especially starting them out small. It just gives them that support and really lets them take off. And I've noticed the ones that are on trellis put out new vines more frequently than say ones that I just leave to trail, if that makes sense. This is my species Cianjur no ID, and it doesn't look the best, but it is improving. It did go through this little spurt where it dropped a bunch of leaves here, but I did put it in this cabinet. We did the whole new lighting situation, taking away one of the shelves so that some of the plants had more room, things like that. And it really has shown to benefit this one in particular, a few others also, but this one is really showing the benefits. I have new growth on this vine here. So lots of new leaves growing on it, and it has sun stressed really well. The leaves actually used to be a brighter green, like the reverted Asami. They were that color, and they are so much darker now, and it does have a tiny bit of splash that has developed, maybe because it's pretty close to a light, but it does seem to be enjoying life a lot better than it was before. I'm thinking if I can get this vine to grow out a bit, I'm gonna chop these uglier sections and just see if I can get the prettier new growth to dominate, and maybe rehab these sections, try to get new growth on them as well, and then think about repotting them all together or whatever is the best solution with those cuttings. But I know this part looks so ugly. I keep looking at it, I'm like, ugh, I just want to chop you off. But I think it's doing better and it's happier again, which is great. It wasn't ever really in danger of dying. It just lost a few leaves right here. So I think it's doing pretty well. I do really enjoy seeing the darker color on it. I think it suits this Lacunosa a lot better than the brighter green. Just personally, I think with the elongated leaves, and I can really see the texture on them now with the darker green. That was not super noticeable when it was a lighter green. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how this plant is doing. It might be also due for a repot in the near future, but I'll kind of have to see what happens after I chop it up, and we'll go from there. Now I'm moving on to some of the plants that I got with the Lacinosa Asami. These are all growing so much more than that one has. This is the Hoya Lacunosa tove, and it does have a brighter green leaf mostly, and it has grown quite a lot, though it has not given me the type of thinner vine that I can easily put on a trellis. So I have decided to let this one trail for now. It was originally growing in super high humidity, so that's why we have so many roots there. I have tried to put a bunch back in with the pot. It has rooted so well, but luckily no roots coming out of the bottom yet, so I don't have to worry about repotting. I don't think there's technically one active vine on it right now. There's 3 different ones, and it's just like kind of active over here. So it is in a little bit of a stalled period, but it has grown a lot since I got it. I got it as one, I think just one. Yeah, this all started from one node. I think it was 1 or 2 nodes on the cutting. So it has grown quite a lot, is doing very well. Has cute little round shaped leaves as well, almost like a Croniana. And you can see the ribs or the abs on them. And I do think the goal would be to get it on a trellis like the others, but if it's gonna have this thick of a stem compared to the other plants, I might not feel as confident about putting it on a trellis because they would more likely be to break as I'm trying to wrap it around. So this might have to be a trailing one, which isn't the end of the world, but it might just not grow as fast as some of the others if I leave it trailing. These next three are all trellis Hoyas from Plantita's Dreams. I put them on a trellis after I got them. I got them either as a cutting or a small plant. So this one I actually got as an unrooted cutting. This is a number Hoya. Sorry, I know it's not the sexiest name. This is SR2010-055. I think this is my potato chip Lacinosa. That's what I call it because the leaves are pretty crinkly and wavy. They've got good splash on them. I am starting to chain it around this trellis, but this vine doesn't have any active growth right now. This one over here is actively growing right here, this one. So it is two separate plants. I guess I bought it as two cuttings and I put it in this potting situation, I wanna say in February, and that was only 2 months ago. It has already got roots coming out of the bottom of the pot. It has really liked this potting situation. It has taken very well to it. I think it's loving life in the Hoya cabinet, and that makes me really happy to see. So overall, this has been a giant success. I think all of the Hoyas that I put in this similar situation in the Hoya cabinet are just doing so well. I could do a whole video about how great all the new growth is in that cabinet because they're just exploding with growth. I do also see a couple of super tiny small leaves starting to grow in there. I don't think it would be visible. So that does appear to be a new vine forming, a new growth point as well. And that one should be pretty easy to wrap around the trellis as it grows. So that is super exciting. I do need to fertilize this. I just noticed there's no fertilizer in here. So that should speed up some growth as well. I'll put in some fertilizer after this video. And I just love this one. I love the potato chip look. I think it's so cute. I'm gonna wrap that around right there. It is definitely one of my favorites just because it's so unique. I don't have any other Lacinosa that have a wavy leaf like this. So this is a more unique looking one, even if it doesn't have the best name. I think it is super cool. This is actually one of my more recent Hoya purchases. I either purchased it in November of last year or pretty early this year. So I haven't had it for too terribly long. This is the Lacinosa Nanjuk leang. Probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm very sorry if I did. But this is also a prime example of Hoyas that will just explode with growth the second you give them a trellis. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 active growth points right now. Yeah, 4. So it's going insane with growth and I'm not mad about it. The new leaves look super interesting, growing closer to the grow lights. Some back here, these are a bit bigger, which is cool to see. And then these also have the unique color to them. I don't know if that's gonna just fade once they harden off or what, a little dirt on it, or what's going on there, but it's super cool. This is definitely one of my darker leaf Lacinosa. It's just such a stark contrast to this one. Most of them are more of this middle range shade of green, but this is very dark and I'm not complaining about that at all. It is amazing. I do really enjoy this one. I wish the new growth, these vines would grow properly. Like, why is this growing down? I think I'm gonna have to wrap it around the other side of the trellis, but it doesn't seem to have minded being clipped onto this trellis at all. It is exploding with growth and I'm really hoping that I can get it wrapping around soon, like the mint coin. I think this is gonna be very similar in terms of a plant that just keeps growing nonstop, does not care about the season, and is just loving life. So I'm very excited to see what this is going to look like in a few months once it's even more established, because I would say it's still establishing itself at this point since I haven't had it for too long, and I repotted all of these in February. So it is I'm trying to give it some time to see what its growth pattern will really be, but it is very promising so far. Finally, before we move on to my Hoya that is in a hanging basket, I do have one more that is living in the grow cabinet. This is my Lacinosa Mr. Tent. I do love the name of this one, and I do think it is another one of those more unique Lacinosa in that the leaves are very elongated and skinny, and they're very pointy. So I do think that is a little bit different than some of the others that might just look green or have a round leaf or a small round pointy leaf. There's a lot of those, but I don't see too many Lacunosas that just have a very elongated long leaf. So I do really enjoy that about this plant. I think there are 2 separate plants in the pot, and I do have active growth on 2 of the vines. This one here doesn't have any active growth on it, but I do have some down here, if you can see that, if it'll focus. And I do have new growth up top here. So it is actively growing, which is great to see. Again, this one was repotted in February and there are roots coming out of the bottom. So it is just another happy plant, loving life. And it's just great. It is a great plant. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this section because it's not actively growing, but it is kind of flabby, not quite long enough, if I can talk, to put on the trellis, but that's okay. Maybe I have some trailing sections and some that are wrapping around the trellis. We'll just kind of have to see how the growth pattern goes for this one. It does seem to have so far more internodal spacing between the leaves than some of the other Lacinosa. So that should make it easier to trellis than some of the others, because you do want to have enough room to put a clip around it or some plant Velcro or something like that. But I can't complain about this one. This one is truly just such a joy of a plant, and I really like seeing it. I love seeing that it's growing. There has been some little bits of sun stress on some of the leaves on the bottom, decent amount of splash, really cool abs or ribs on it. You can see some of the splash here and the texture to the leaves. It's just such a unique Hoya, so I really do enjoy having this one, and that's why I saved it for one of the last. So this is my last Lacinosa. It is in a hanging basket from my ceiling, and it's just too intertwined and long to get out of here. This is my Hoya Lacunosa snow caps that I bought right before I moved from Maryland to Texas from a Lowe's as a 6-inch basket, and then it really struggled after the drive. I had to do some rehab, and it got to a point where I was able to put it in the basket again. And it does okay. I think because it's in a chunkier mix, it does dry out sooner, and I might not be watering it as much as I should. And I don't always clean up all of the dead leaves, but it's doing okay enough, and I think it's trailing enough that it still looks pretty in here. But I wanted to show off the last one. It is more of what you think of with a typical green Lacinosa with a little bit of splash, but it's still cute. So that is it for my Hoya Lacunosa collection. I think I counted 15 different varieties. I feel like I should bump those numbers up. I thought I had way more than 15. I thought it was at least 20, but hey, there's always time. There's always more Lacinosa to collect. But these are all just so enjoyable to me. I love how quickly they grow. I love how full they get so quickly. Them and the Mathilde are, I think, the ones that just get really full the fastest. They just love life. They're so easygoing. They're great for those that are beginners with houseplants or Hoya in general. They're just all around such amazing plants, and they do really well in moss for me, though I do have a couple that I have a mix of like moss and chunky mix that also do really well, but that's mainly what I keep them in. I do have a few in fluval or pond from when I got them that I still haven't repotted yet, but those aren't doing quite as well as some of the others. So that's just in my experience, my care with them. Like I said, I find that they really love a trellis versus being a trailing plant, but maybe in your conditions, they prefer to be trailing. This is just me sharing what has worked for me with these plants. They respond really well to slow release fertilizer. They can tolerate underwatering, but I wouldn't recommend underwatering your plants too much, of course, but they are very forgiving, especially when last year I just didn't have as much time for all my Hoyas. The Lacunosas stayed really strong, and they're now rewarding me for taking care of them properly. But if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, make sure to give Nutmeg and I here a thumbs up down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here on the channel. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next one.